What made Zoombinis worth reviving after so many years?
So Zoombinis was a bit of a legend in the educational gaming industry. It was one of the first edutainment games and one of the best.
So what stood out about Zoombinis that made it where you wanted to be involved?
Creating an environment for players where they do feel like they could explore and test things and fail.
I've been trying to think about what would be the use of AI in Zoombinis.
Like when I originally played, I wasn't playing an educational game. I was just playing a game, right?
Welcome to another episode of the Zoombinis podcast. I am your host and the ambassador coordinator for Zoombinis, Brittany. Today we are thrilled to have David Libby, CTO at TERC, who has been at the heart of this game's journey, from its early roots to its exciting revival. And joining us as well is Gary Goldberger, from FableVision, whose leadership helped breathe new life into this classic. We're diving into the magic behind the game, how it came back to life, and why it still matters today. I'm very excited. Are you guys excited?
Yes.
Very
Awesome.
much so.
Now, David, you have been with TERC for over 30 years. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with the organization?
So TERC is a not-for-profit. We do research into K-12 STEM education, mostly funded by the federal government. And occasionally we do work that ends up turning into a product. I got started in '94 as their first IT director.
Oh, wow.
And that role evolved over the years, if you think about how technology has come to be such a part of our lives. And I also got increasingly involved in products over the years, including Zoombinis. When I started at TERC, Scott Osterweil and Chris Hancock, the people who created Zoombinis, were still there. I wasn't directly involved, but if I had a question on like how to get past fleas, I could run down the hallway and talk to Scott. And then I was there when myself and Glenn Secor, who is our Director of Business Development, worked for years on getting the rights to Zoombinis back. So why don't I stop there?
That sounds good. What are your first encounters with Zoombini, and what did the original project mean for TERC?
So like I said, TERC does educational research. We were doing research on data literacy in the early 90s. So how kids learn and think about data. You see something in the early Zoombinis literature, kids learning the upcoming data manipulation of the computer age. That sounds very dated for today. But there was a exploratory data analysis tool for kids called Tabletop, and then Tabletop Junior. Tabletop Junior had these little characters in it called the Snoids. We'd been looking for a distributor for Tabletop Junior and had been talking to Broderbund, who also made Carmen Sandiego and Myst and other very well-known titles. And Broderbund said, we think there's a game in these little characters. So they partnered with TERC. Scott and Chris designed the game. And that's how Zoombinis came to be. Again, I came to TERC just when that was first starting. Actually, Scott and Chris interviewed me. They were wearing like tie-dyed shirts and cut-off shorts, and I was in a three-piece suit. And they looked at me and said, well, we don't really know how to interview. We just need to know if you're a good guy. So tell us about yourself. So that was fun. So I get to run down the hallway to Scott and say, how do you solve this? So that was my first encounter.
That's awesome.
I was interviewed with the creators and got to kind of tap them for how do I play this? And how do I solve this one?
And Gary, can you tell us a little bit about your role and how you organized first becoming connected with Zoombinis?
Sure. So I am the president and one of the co-founders of FableVision Studios. We started the company actually back in 1996. So it's been a long journey. I'm not at 32 years yet, but I'm approaching. And kind of over the years, I've kind of played the role of right now, well, every role under the sun, but right now I'm playing the role of executive creative director on a lot of our projects. FableVision is a learning media development company. So we do everything from books, interactive, mobile, games, AR, VR, film, TV, audio podcasts. So wherever learners are being engaged with content, we're there, and really we're engagement agents as I see ourselves. And I oversee all the kind of like business development and business verticals, but I get myself pretty deep in a couple of projects a year. So Zoombinis being one of them. And the way that I got connected to Zoombinis, I was a player.
Oh, wow.
So I was an early adopter of the game. And later in FableVision's career, one of our big games, we partnered with Scott Foster while he was the creative director on a game called Lord of the Labyrinth that we were producing, and our creative relationship really started there and kind of continued. And so I knew Zoombinis pretty well going into it. So
Nice. So that was one of your earliest memories of the game was when you played it back then?
yeah, I mean, I remember because FableVision was just starting, and I was just out of school. I was about a year out of school, and so I was played a lot of games, and it was one that was like near and dear. Yeah, I loved it. So yeah, it was like a trip when I got to meet Scott for the first time and did the connection. It was just yeah, pretty fabulous. So yeah,
Yes.
so I was a little bit of a fanboy. To be honest.
Scott's a bit of a legend in the educational gaming circles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told Gary this. Maybe I shouldn't say it. So we have policies and procedures at TERC. So we had to do 3 bids on getting the work for Zoombinis done, and FableVision actually had some tight competition. There was
Wow.
another company that bid on it, which I won't name. Gary might know who they probably knows who they are.
Probably.
But they sent us a video with their developers, and their
Mm.
developers were looking into the camera, talking about how it would be the honor of a lifetime to work on bringing Zoombinis back,
Yeah.
how much they loved it as a kid, how they got into educational gaming and creating games because of Zoombinis. So we were
Mm.
kind of favoring FableVision from the start, but then we got that video and we're like, "Oh my god, I hate we're gonna break these people's hearts if we don't pick them."
We
Um
would have broken mine without the video. They didn't share that, but
But but we had a good working relationship with FableVision. I think Turk had worked with you before.
yeah, it's true. It's
You were
true.
local, so we could actually collaborate in person, and you
Yeah,
brought Scott back to the table, which
yeah,
was a key thing in the remake of the game.
yeah. Because we had that partnership with Scott, I thought it was critical that he was involved in this next release. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think one of the big questions I at least get asked a lot as the ambassador coordinator is what made Zoombinis worth reviving after so many years?
Hmm.
So Zoombinis was a bit of a legend in the educational gaming industry. It was one of the first edutainment games and one of the best. And of course, it was done by Broderbund, who did Carmen Sandiego and Myst. So it's Zoombinis is a great title, but it was among a suite of great titles that came out of Broderbund in the '90s. The dot-com bust happened, and it took Broderbund with it. So the way the publication contract was written, as long as Zoombinis was being published, it would pass on to whoever acquired Broderbund and so on. So it passed through the hands of multiple companies, the Learning Company, Mattel, Riverdeep, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, HMH, et cetera. But what happened was no one updated the game. So you couldn't, if you went out, if you had your old computer from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could play Zoombinis. If you didn't have that computer anymore and you bought a new one, it probably wouldn't run.
Yeah.
So we actually had fans writing us like at
Oh,
least
wow.
monthly. Our assistant communications director would pop by my office and say, "Hey, we got another fan writing, wondering if we can do anything about Zoombinis." So we get these letters from teachers, from players who had kids now, from others who were like, "I want to play Zoombinis again. I had a great experience with it. It actually caused me to become a computer scientist or made me go into programming or help, it was my bright spot in school."
Uh,
So we started thinking, there's really something there and people love it. And there was Zubinis fan groups on Facebook and other places. So we're like, we really should try to get the rights back and really bring this back. And if you've ever played Zubinis, it just fits really well with tablets. So tablets had begun to come on the scene and we're like, wow, this would be awesome for a tablet. So it came back largely because we kept getting emails and notes from fans saying, gee, can you bring this back?
That's awesome. Gary, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
yeah, I mean, one of the things about Zoombinis is that it's a solid game. It's a really great game with amazing characters, and the underlying logic is still valid. Like the whole point of like learning these like skills, even in school and early, computational science classes, is like still needed to this day. And so I think that there's like the game world is beautiful. The puzzles are great, and I just think that it ages so well, like the kind of core of the product. So
Yeah, we were playing Zubinis on the Twitch stream last night. People should go watch our Twitch stream. It's
Every
it's it's
Tuesday and Thursday.
it's a great way to figure
Nice
out how to
plug.
play the
That's
harder
good.
levels because you
Yeah.
can't just give tips for those. Sometimes you need to see it done.
Yeah.
But one thing I pointed out in the comments that Scott said to me at one point, if you ever played Mirror Machine, Mirror Machine is an algebraic equation. The mirror is an equal sign, and you're doing transformations on each side of the equation to make them equal.
Yeah.
And, when I some of the things like Bubble Under Abyss, I can say, well, that's programming. It's pretty obvious. But Mirror Machine, I remember talking to Scott once and saying, what is underneath this? And he's like, it's an algebraic equation. I'm like, holy hell, that's brilliant. So once he I'm sorry, that was going to lead me to something else. One thing Scott and Chris really said, and if you've played an educational game, if you ever played educational games, you know that most of them don't get this right,
Yeah.
which is as opposed to putting math into the fun, into the game, they looked at math and said, how do we make it fun? Because if you look at an awful lot of educational games, what you have to do doesn't really have that much connection to what you're learning from the game. So, you shoot something down and it gives you points to make your rocket lift off. And it's like, well, there's no direct connection between what you're doing and what you need to accomplish, except that they kind of shoehorn those two things together.
Sure.
Zumbini, the challenges, I mean, the story actually is the challenges. So again, as Scott and Chris put it, they found the fun in the math rather than try to put math into shoehorn math into something fun.
Yeah. Great design. It really is a great design.
Yeah, and with the Twitch stream, we have seen others come out, other fans that are excited to see the gameplay. Like, I have never even tried some of those harder levels because I can't even get through the easy level. So seeing the harder ones, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I haven't. I tried those because some of them are very hard.
Yeah, it's amazing how it grows with you. Like, it is like infinite, right? Like, there are definitely levels that I have not completed for sure. So I'm like, okay, I'll dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say it to like ages 8 and up, but I gotta tell you, I'm thinking of an 8-year-old taking on the top level of some of the puzzles
Oh,
and going, they're gonna run to their parents, and the parents are gonna sit staring at the screen going for a while, going, wow, this is
yeah.
not easy.
It's also like a game that you're okay failing in.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, it kind of allows you to kind of like fail and bang your head a little bit, and it feels like it's all right to do that in a game.
There's a quote from the narrator that he pops up with sometimes, which is, yes, some Zoombinis were lost, but the knowledge was gained. So it's kind of like real life, where if you're doing science and you're collecting data, sometimes you walk down the wrong path or you make a few mistakes along the way. So it's, that's learning that's part of the scientific process is a skill in and of itself.
Yeah, except for that bubble game. Anytime I lose one there, I feel really bad. Man. So we get a lot of questions from fans as well. Are we gonna be talking about a Zoombinis too?
We would love to here at TERC. I'm sure FableVision would also. It's kind of a cost basis and a profit basis, to be honest. TERC is a not-for-profit, so we're not out to make profit. But on the other hand, we do need to cover our costs. Money doesn't grow on trees. So to be honest, part of the reason we're doing this big marketing kick around Zoombinis is if we can get sales up, we can potentially do more both with Zoombinis itself and with the Zoombinis sequels. I will confess, TERC never viewed the sequels as being quite as good as the originals. So to be honest, if we did do a sequel, we'd probably look at Mountain Rescue and Island Odyssey and try to combine the best of those into a new game. There was also a concept paper done at one point by Scott and Chris, which was the Zoombinis have to go back to their original home to rescue their pets.
Yeah.
So it was a game
Oh.
based more around science than around math. We have the concept document for that. It's like 20 pages
Yeah.
long. It would be fascinating to do it. Again, though, we need to make the money to spend the money.
Yeah, and we've had initial conversations about this. It would be a new title, not a revamp of the same, sequel.
Very, very likely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a comment on our Instagram, another plugin, yesterday that were like, I thought that Mountain Rescue was a fever dream until I saw Zoombinis on Instagram. And then I was like, oh, wait, I don't think I dreamt it. I think it's a real thing. So there's still love out there for all of Zoombinis, which I love, is it's not just the original, but all the other ones that came too.
The thing about the original has, I think, the best cast of characters in terms of Arno and Shyla and Willa and Allah and Captain Cajun. And
Yeah.
the whole
But
crap.
as we know, it kind of depends on like where you entered that Zoombinis world. Like, we started from the beginning, but maybe not everybody did,
Yeah. Let's see. So for Gary, FableVision works on many educational projects. What stood out about Zoombinis that made it where you wanted to be involved?
Well, again, as I said, I was a huge fan. And we were working with Scott, and we FableVision's kind of approach to kind of like game-based learning is very much aligned with Scott's approach. As far as kind of like creating an environment for players where they do feel like they could explore and test things and fail. And it was kind of it's kind of as David said, it's one of the best designed games because of where it started and its foundations, right? Working with Scott is always a dream. He's a great collaborator. TERC is a fantastic collaborating partner. And I think it kind of like all came out really well. And TERC wanted to use FableVision for what we do really well, which is great, right? They were like, we want you to make it look better, but we also want to keep the soul of the original product. And we kind of had a lot of conversations back and forth on how to do that. And I feel like, they tapped us for our talent, which was lovely. And they let us go where they felt like, we could enhance the product. So it was a dream product and still is.
You weren't just talented programmers and artists. It was also that you work in educational space, so you
Yep.
got education. So TERC being an educational not-for-profit, it was very important to us that education had to continue to be a major part of the game.
Yeah.
Was
I
there
mean, it would be
any
crazy if it wasn't, by the way. But like we've continuously developed and grew with TERC on like research projects and finding new areas to kind of like grow into the space and like really like using Zoombinis as a platform, right? I mean, it really is kind of ever evolving, I think.
So were there more technical challenges or creative challenges with updating Zoombinis?
Well, what we started with, TERC had a lot of original assets. So we had to redo the entire code base. We took the underlying logic of all the games and we had that code, but because it was written in C++, we had to kind of like update it, rewrite it in Unity for multiple platforms, figure out the touch and the tablet. But with that, we also kind of like looked at the artwork, which was 8-bit back then, I think, and we updated that and wanted to make it high resolution. And so we were able to kind of like imagine kind of like what these backgrounds would look like if you had a high resolution, display versus, what they were created in originally. We did keep the original audio, which was kept from the
Had to
beginning.
keep that.
Yeah, you had to keep that. And then all of the animations were actually traced frame by frame from the
Oh,
original.
wow.
So our artists like went in there and the backgrounds are all new, but a lot of the animations were replicated. And we also kind of like brought back a new design of the Zoombinis. If you played the original, they were kind of more oblongy, pear-y shape. But the original vision that Scott had was this like more kind of round little character. So
Awesome. But were there those hidden Easter eggs in the original one? I can't remember.
yeah, there were
They
actually.
were?
Yeah, we brought back I think probably 99% of the original Easter eggs. There's a couple that we didn't get in there, but
Yeah, when we
yeah.
showed that on the Twitch stream, people were shocked. A lot of people did not know that they were there.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could click on.
Yeah, yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
What
I
was
think that was
the
also important. Like TERC like pushed us and said they have to be in there.
I've always loved that part about video games when they had like little things in them.
Mm,
But yeah, I was shocked how many there were
yeah.
and how exciting they are.
We did add achievements, which the original game didn't have, but right towards the end for Game Center.
You added a what?
The achievements for the Game Center.
We're not plugged into Apple. We do have achievements
The achievements
in the
Yeah,
game
yeah,
itself.
yeah, which we didn't have in the original. So some things changed or added.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what the differences are if you want to know.
Well,
Absolutely.
you also changed the name.
So one of the things was the fourth level of fleeings. Scott introduced a new complication. There's what he calls a red herring in there, which is you have to match 3 of the 4 fleeing characteristics to Zoombinis characteristics. But the fourth one is totally random. So it's very easy to
Oh.
get confused about what you're mapping and what, because you look and you go, well, this should correspond. It doesn't. Now, in recognition that he made that part harder, and also that you can't make twins when you first create your Zoombinis anymore. The original, you could create two Zoombinis at exactly the same kind. So you could have 8 identical pairs,
Right.
and that made a lot of the puzzles easier.
I
So
would have
Scott
never
said, "No,
even
no,
thought
no,
of
we
that.
can't do
It
that."
was a good cheat, like, back in the day. We got rid of that.
Now you can still create a set of Zumbinis and get them to, Shelter Rock, and then create another set and get them to Shelter Rock. And if you made them exactly the same, you then can kind of get around it, at least for, the later puzzles. But in recognition of those 2 things that made it harder, Scott said, "We should probably make it so you don't have to get 625 Zumbinis to Zumbiniville to win," but it's only 400 now. The other thing that we went back and forth with Scott on, if you play the original Zumbinis, not the learning game version, the original Broderbund version, the help is about as minimal as you can think of. Scott was adamant that, no part of the game is figuring out how you actually play the game.
Yeah.
We're giving people minimal tips. And then Learning Company came in and went, God, no, we have to tell these people how to play the game. So they wrote much more involved help. And we kind of compromised with Scott in the middle in the new version. It has more detailed help than Broderbund, but less detailed help than the Learning Company.
Yeah, and those were a lot of conversations. I mean, we had a lot of
Oh yeah.
conversations around, like, how much help is too much help? Where do we want kids to have productive struggle? Because I think that, that's where the learning really happens, is when people are struggling and, overcome that hurdle. So,
Yeah. At the campsite, I remember sitting there and I'm like, I should know this. What is going, and I thought it was a level. And then you open the help and it literally says, this is not a level, but I was being too difficult to open the help. So see, they'll give it to you too, but you might not even ask for it. So I was there for like 10 minutes and then I looked it up like, oh my gosh.
well, right? That was a cute little campsite.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I put him in the little thing, I spun him around a little bit, I took him out. I was, like, trying to figure out what to do with them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it was live, so that was great too. Just
Oh, that's
added to
good.
the
Oh, well,
gotta add some chaos to it.
I love that.
But how do you see Zoombinis fitting in today's learning environment with all the education things that have come up and everything?
So game-based well, first of all, I am in technology, not in education. So while I work for an entity that is filled with researchers, PhDs in education, that's not me. So I will tell you what I picked up along the way, but I will add the disclaimer that I'm not the expert on this.
Oh, I should put that disclaimer for everything, by the way.
I mean, game-based learning is somewhat more accepted these days. As Jody Asbro Clark, one of our senior PIs who led a research study on Zoombis, puts it, she's like, we're not trying to turn all kids into gamers. Kids are gamers already. What we'd like to do is when they do game, it would be good to have some education in there too. So that's one place for education. One thing that Jody and her group found is that something called bridging is very useful, which is you can play the game, but if you also have someone like a teacher or the parent kind of saying, do you see what's going on here? This is, algorithmic design or something. I mean, that's a buzzword, but it's really helpful if you can kind of make the bridge between playing the game and what the concepts are underneath it. It also turns out that back in the 90s, it was data literacy, but nowadays is I don't want to say a new thing. That makes it sound like a fad. It's not, but the principles around computational thinking. And it turns out Zoombinis is a great match for teaching computational thinking concepts. So that fits perfectly into like what's become an important aspect of education in maybe the last 5 years. Another thing I'd say is that one thing Jody found in her study is that Zoombinis does really well with neurodiverse learners. They love the game. So she's had teachers who talked to her who said, there are kids in my class who are on the spectrum. They're neurodiverse. They're usually quiet. They're not what you'd call the intellectual leaders in class. They don't speak up and like lead the discussions. But the teacher said, when we play Zoombinis, they shine. They do really well with these puzzles, and they're the ones explaining to the other kids what's going on and leading the discussion. So that's another place I think Zoombinis really fits in.
It's awesome.
Gary, I
Gary,
don't
did
know
you
if you
have
have
any?
anything to.
Yeah, I think also kind of like when it first came out, it didn't really have a place in the ed space, right? Like in the school day, right? It was like really a home product where now I feel like schools have accepted game-based learning with the kind of like David said, computational thinking becoming a curriculum and giving it validity, showing its pathway to career development is really important right now. And so I think it kind of like easily fits into a class now where it might not have in the 90s, late 90s. So, I think there's more opportunities to bring it into traditional schools or formal educational settings, beyond the informal, play spaces that we're in. So,
Yeah, and with homeschooling too, with having it on multiple devices and things, that gets
Mhm.
it out there even more,
For
with
sure,
that
for sure.
ability.
Yeah.
I got to put another plug in here.
Yeah.
So we're reforming things right now. So don't do this for about 2 weeks. But in about 2 weeks, go to the Zumbini. So in about 2 weeks, go to Zumbinis.com and look at Zumbinis clubs. Zumbinis clubs is we ended up developing some activities, particularly for younger kids in the classroom or after school, where you want to move around and have some activity, not just sit in front of a device. So for instance, you act out allergic cliffs. So two kids get picked as the cliffs, and the other kids get cards in their Zumbinis, and the cliffs get the card saying you're allergic to this and you're not allergic to this. And you actually act out allergic cliffs and I think pizza pass and a few others.
Mm,
So and then you play the game also. So it's kind of if you're doing an after school if somebody's listening to this and you're doing an after school program or something, check
yeah.
this out because it's a great way to like actually play Zumbinis in person with the kids being the Zumbinis,
Yeah.
and then try it online too and see how that goes.
Yeah, it's great offline, online play. We're really excited about that. But also like Zoombinis, even though it's a single player game, it is can be such a collaborative game as well, right? Like there are so many kids where it's multiple play kids on one computer or kids on two computers that are shouting at each other, being like, "How did you solve that?" Because it's algorithmically programmed. Like no puzzles are the same, right? They have different solutions, but they have to start talking about like their thought process and their thinking and how they went about solving it versus having an answer, which is really makes the product unique as well, so
Yeah, and generations. We can show
yeah.
our kids and enjoy it with them at the same time
Yeah, it's
type of thing.
cool, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Brittany, I've said this to you and Mallory who run the Twitch, which is, and I've shared with you the game design document. Even if you know how the puzzles work, it doesn't necessarily, sometimes it confuses even more. You can know how the puzzles work, but because they're randomized each time, you sit down in front of it and go, I know how this works, and I still can't figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is, and also kind of like when we start adding more variables, it just gets so much more complicated, right? I mean, you're like, "Oh, it was great with a nose and some feet," but then you add some hair there, you're like, "Oh, forget it."
One thing when we first did the remake of Zumbinis is we relied a lot on the fans. We'd go to our Facebook. I mean, we were in a meeting with FableVision and we thought of something and we immediately put it out to the Facebook group. And within like 5 minutes, we had 20 responses going, no, don't do that. You need to keep it this way. And it's like, fine,
Yeah.
fine. And we came back to the meeting and said, no, we got to do it that way. And where was I going with this? I don't remember.
The
Oh,
challenges.
but we had a Zumbinis advisory board of some really
Oh,
hardcore
yeah.
fans. So for some of the puzzles, like Bubble Wonder at the highest levels, one of our panel advisors who became a computer scientist,
Oh, wow.
she gets a sheet of paper out and she writes down on the paper the order of all 16 Zumbinis she's going to play before she even touches the game.
Wow.
So she spends like half an hour planning her
Always
entire
follows
move
that arena.
sequence
Yeah.
before she actually places the Zumbinis on one of the bubble machines. That's
When
hardcore.
Wait, Dib, when you play, do you randomize your Zoombinis or do you make your Zoombinis?
I might make a few if I have favorites, but I usually randomize them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, now
Brittany,
I'm
what have
wondering
you
if
done?
I'm missing out because I've always well, I have like one of my favorites, and then I randomize the rest of them.
Which
So
is your favorite?
the single little pony hair with the single nose and the little droopy eyes, and then I put them on the
I've
rollerblades.
got
Oh, as a
I've got
Yep.
one of my favorites here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mine's the
Yeah.
bald guy, with the little tuft.
Yes,
And then, the spring. I love the spring.
I do too. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if we're missing out because we aren't starting that early with designing our Zoombinis. Maybe if we take more time in designing each Zoombini to prepare for the puzzles, I guess, or maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if it would help.
We get a bug report one time, and sometimes it's hard to tell if it's a bug or if the puzzle is just so hard that the users can't really solve it. Gary often ended up going to Jordan. Jordan was one of the lead programmers on Zoombinis.
Their technical director.
And he didn't write, for instance, Mirror Machine, but he troubleshot it. So he was the one who had to make sure that that everything worked and it followed the rules and all of that. But at one point we got a trouble ticket from someone saying, I think there's a bug. And it surprised me, and I opened it because their Zoombinis were almost perfectly identical. Like
Hmm.
they all had exactly the same feet and like I think maybe exactly the same noses. And the only thing they varied to get 16 was the eyes and the hair.
Yeah,
And I was wondering if it was some edge condition. We think it was just the puzzle was just a bit. Jordan figured out a way to make it work.
right.
But yeah, when I saw that,
So
I'm like,
that it's
oh,
just
they'll
like
really do this.
making your own characters would make it really difficult to play one of those games. Like, let's say if you had all the same feet and you're on allergic cliffs and you have the wrong feet, well, you're never gonna pass that game,
No, the game will always figure out.
right?
It'll always get this logic to check for that. It's always solvable.
So that's the adjustment that was made.
Except Jordan told me this. The top level of Captain Cajun,
Yeah.
depending on your Zoombinis, it might be possible that you don't have a complete perfect solution for the top level of Captain Cajun.
Yeah, I think that would probably be an edge case.
Yeah, that's probably an edge case, but it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
possible.
Crazy.
Wow. Now we're gonna have to figure it out. Maybe on the Twitch stream,
Yeah,
we will
definitely.
have to test this theory to see if it matters if you can select them or randomize them. All right, David, as the CTO, you're constantly looking ahead. You already told us maybe in 2 weeks what might be happening with Zoombinis clubs, but what does it look like for the next 5 to 10 years for Zoombinis?
For Zoombinis, we've worked with FableVision on some stuff. It didn't get funded, but we submitted a proposal that was going to do Zoombinis World. If you remember Club Penguin,
Mm-hmm.
we'd have something like Club Zoombinis. We've talked about doing VR with Zoombinis and collaborative play with Zoombinis.
Yeah.
Gary is right. Zoombinis can be a very collaborative game. We hear from teachers in the classroom that you'll have 3 or 4 kids around the game figuring out how to play. Or at home, you'll have a kid playing with their older brother or sister or their parent or grandparent. It would be good to have more collaborative play. Hopefully this equals AI. I've been trying to think about what would be the use of AI in Zoombinis. That's an instance in which I think we'd have to think about some new possible puzzles and how that could come into play.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I've given up trying to look at more than maybe 3 to 5 years of hidden technology. 5 years ago, would you have said Chat GPT would be at the place it is now?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, we are continuously looking for new opportunities to expand the world. We really are. And we came up with an AR game together to figure out how that could work. And, under the grant world, we're able to kind of test different things and kind of push the learning science as well behind it. So I think, yeah, from our point of view, it's just a great world that could continuously expand and go on to multiple platforms. As platforms evolve over the next 5, 10 years, I feel like Zoombinis will be on them. No, so
I do wonder some of the major. Well, for instance, Roblox. Roblox is working more education into some of the games on Roblox. I know.
Mhm.
Minecraft is an educational version of Minecraft. So virtual worlds haven't quite come into education quite as much as I might have expected by now. So I'm tempted to say you might see more of that, but I'm not sure because again, it hasn't quite been widely adopted as I might have expected. I think it might be a generational thing with teachers as you get, just inherently you're going to get an increasing number of teachers who have played games as kids
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and are more comfortable with it in the classroom.
I think with open world, at least from a gamer perspective, it's kind of harder to force that education on it because you're able to do your own thing. There's no guidance to what you're doing. At least in a video game like Zoombinis, there's guidance along the way of different.
Yeah, it also Zubinis, when I originally played, I wasn't playing an educational game. I was just playing a game, right?
Yes.
And so that's the difference. And it kind of changing it from the logical journey to Zumbinis also kind of changes it. It makes it more game and playful versus oh, I'm gonna do an educational experience, right? So it's kind of depending on how you approach it and where it comes to you, it's a very different kind of like ask, I think. So
There's another product that TERC has coming out in a month or two, which is it has nothing to do with Zoombinis, but it's called Mission to Europa. It's a VR game set on a science station on Europa, and it's kind of in the form of an escape room.
Oh, wow.
But you have to put STEM learning into practice as you solve the escape room. And a number of escape rooms have STEM in them. It's just from our point of view for TERC, we've gone really deep into that kind of stuff. It was also designed with work from Landmark College. So neurodiverse learners were actually involved in designing and making the game itself. So that's going to be for the Oculus and out in a few months.
Wow. How do you ensure technology complements rather than distracts from the learning?
Well, I think with new technologies, you kind of like look at it, you assess it and figure out like what is the benefits. Like the tablet, getting a tablet. The great thing is that you're touching and interacting directly versus through a mouse, right? So that engagement, that immediacy, we feel, has to be honored and kind of like leverage, right? So depending on like what technology we're using, we're saying like, well, how will this enhance a player's experience with the world? And so like now you could like pick up the Zoombinis with your fingers and they're like dangling, and it's really, you have to have that, oh my God, this is amazing feel when you're using the new technology, or you'll just go back to using the same older technology, right? So I think that's our approach, is kind of like, where's the wow and the fun in using that, in enhancing that experience. And like making it more beautiful, having a higher res, making the sound better, all of these things are kind of like holistic with a new platform and a new technology.
The design is really important. You can look at an awful lot of educational products
Yeah.
where they're good, but they're not great. And there are times when they're not great because, well, number one, because either the technology isn't there yet, but they're trying to use it, sometimes for the sake of using it.
Yeah.
Or other times because they didn't quite think enough about how the technology not getting in the way. Like I remember when we were discussing with Gary about doing AR, VR version of Zoombinis, and it's like, okay, we're not just doing VR for the hell of it. How does this actually add something real to the experience? What can we do here that we couldn't do any other way? So technology is a tool. As long as you're using it to serve the overall purpose, that's great. If you're using it for its own sake, not so good.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, I think we should get into some more fun things. Starting it off, what is your favorite Zoombinis puzzle?
Mine's my ball wall.
Okay.
I love the splat.
Yeah.
I like Bubble Wonder just because I do look at it and I go, if then statements, conditionals, XOR gates, I mean, the whole 9 yards, it looks like programming to me. I can't not mention Pizza Pass though, just because of the pizza trolls. I mean, how can you not love Pizza Pass?
And what is your least favorite?
I hate toads.
I do too.
You don't like toads?
I hate toads. I hate toads.
I always get them stuck in a circle and they just keep moving and don't.
Yes. The game is mocking you. You drop a toad in the wrong place and he goes back and forth and he just keeps going back and forth. You get the first run wrong and for the next 15, you still got that one toad going back and forth in the wrong place. The game is mocking you.
It's demonic.
That's silly. Or a least favorite one?
I was actually going to say Bubble Wonder was like what?
Me too.
I don't know why it's like the one that for me it's like maybe it's the hardest. I don't know. It takes me the longest time. I have to wait. For me,
I lose the most on that one.
Yeah,
I'll make
I
it all the
lose
way there.
most on that. Yeah.
What keeps you personally connected to this project?
I spend 10, 20 hours a week on it.
His paycheck. Yeah, but you could be doing other things. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things could grab your attention, right? You're still amazingly connected and passionate about this project.
I just think, I look at games that are educational. I still consider Minis one of the best. I mean, I never really, Oregon Trail was a little before my time. So Oregon Trail was great, but I didn't really play it. But Zoombinis, Carmen San Diego, for me are kind of like the big ones. Portal. If you've ever played Portal, Portal is surprisingly educational. They didn't necessarily, I mean, maybe they designed it that way, but another one of our Jody again thought about writing up some guides to like how Portal is education and how you can use it in education. So I mean, Zoombinis to me is just one of the absolute classics. The design is brilliant. The characters are wonderful. It's just such a great game, and it's great being a part of, just trying to get it out there more.
It's also amazing, like, when you introduce it to players that have never played it. Like, seeing this new generation coming through, like, David was just at PAX East, right, showing, and people were coming through, and, like, people play it for the first time, and that aha moment is great to see, and great to hear how long people, like, remember it, or, like, you'll be
Mhm.
talking to, older gamers, and they're like, "I love that game." It just has so much impact to so many players. It's an honor to be part of. It really is. It's
Yeah, I
great.
mean, I help look after Zoombinis trouble tickets. A lot of them are deal with how we had to make the change on Google to a new app and getting people codes if they bought the app already. But, I regularly get comments. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I first saw it in Play. I'm reading a comment. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it when I first saw it in the Play Store. I played it many, many years ago on my computer. Thank you for making it available as an app and for keeping it updated. I love this game. I used to play it on the computer as a child. Thank you for creating and continuing to support such a wonderful game. I'm just a millennial trying to recapture some of my youth. I know this is a game for kids, but I'm a kid at heart. You all are the best for keeping this game alive. I mean, we'll get like at least a comment every week that's like that saying, I love this game. We were at PAX East in Boston, and this one guy came in. He was actually working at the show, but we called him the crazy Zoombinis guy because he came in and he like yelled, I love Zoombinis. Zoombinis was my life. So, we just have people who love it. And
And
we
we
did.
have countless stories like that, like countless of like people just like recognizing it, remembering it, pulling a friend over and be like, these guys worked on Zumbinis. It's like unreal. Yeah. It's a good call on card.
All right, hairdo or sunglasses? If you had to pick one or the other.
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
And I think we kind of went over this with the bubble one, but what puzzle gets you stuck on every single time?
I don't get it. There's none that get stuck every time.
Toads I find frustrating. I do get stuck on bubble 100 times. There are times when I'm just like, you know what? I'm getting 14 to the 16 through. I'll come back for the other two later.
Yeah, but not every time.
No.
Yeah. I don't think there's one every time for me either, but bubbles is definitely
That would be a high.
the
Yeah.
hardest one. I remember when I was streaming and David was trying to help me with that, and he would tell me something to do, and I would go to do it, and then it would change like the direction right before I hit the button. I'm like, oh no, I lost another one. I think I left with like 3. It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. Gives you a little error.
Yep.
Well, and I'm not always saying the right thing because again, I'm looking at the game design document and like I said, sometimes knowing how it works doesn't help
Yeah,
you
it
that
doesn't.
much in playing it.
Yeah. That's a whole nother. Pizza Pass or Cajun?
Pizza
Pizza
Pass, Arno,
Yeah.
our spokes troll, Arno.
Really? I love the Cajun one. That one's so easy for me. I can get that one done in like 30 seconds. I
Wait,
don't
was
know
that the
why.
question? Which one's easier?
No, which one do you like better? I just like because it's easier.
I was kind of surprised.
I love food, so like anytime there's a food related
That's
game,
fair.
I'll appreciate that.
I was kind of surprised. Excuse me. I was kind of surprised how popular Captain Cajun is. When they started doing T-shirts, make me a pizza is like the absolute classic. It's a bestseller. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, leave the swim into the fish.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I got some Captain Cajun
Wow.
fans out there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. But which is the most rage quit puzzle?
Toads.
Yeah. I don't really rage quit. I don't think I've ever been like, I can't, all right, because like you lose some Zubinis, you come back, you do it again. I feel like it's part of it, right? But yeah, I don't really rage quit Zubinis, I don't feel.
Toads.
Dude, it's just
You've like thrown the thing down, you're like, forget it, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
it's because it
Well, you
taunts
get bored.
you.
I feel
It
like you would like
taunts-
No, I don't stop playing, but I often say unpleasant things to the screen.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Anger playing. Yeah.
If Zoombinis had a theme park ride, what would it be?
Mudball Wall would be a really fun ride, right? Like you get launched, you like Velcro.
That would be fun.
I think of it, I'm going to use a Disney analogy. It's Thunder Mountain Railroad because I think of that as being fun for both adults and kids.
Mhm.
It's a bit nostalgic. It's not intense like a really intense roller coaster is, so it's comfortable. So playing Zoombinis, I mean, one thing that Scott was insistent on about Zoombinis that we never do, and I agree, is never put any time pressure on the game.
Yeah.
So Zoombinis is a game where, to be honest, the idea is you take time and you think things through and you have time to do that. So no time pressure. So a nice, comfortable, nostalgic, but interesting, entertaining, challenging ride.
You mean like it's a small world or the roller coaster?
Not It's a Small World. God, please no. Thunder Mountain
But you
Railroad.
wanna go through all the worlds. You wanna see the whole, like, experience of the environment and
Yeah, that's true. But I want different music for every challenge, like Zoombinis says. I don't want the same song.
maybe if you combine those 2 together, those 2 rides.
Maybe.
All right, what is one word that describes the game's legacy?
Epic?
What was that?
Epic.
Epic. It's pretty simple, but I think fun because to be honest, the idea of the experience with Zoombinis is it is a fun game first. It's also very educational, but really you play it because it's, hey kid, go play this educational game. It's good for you.
Yeah, but I also think, like, players don't like, it's good, but players don't realize all of the stuff and the research around it, the thought that goes into it, the years that it's been kind of, like, tried and tested and, I feel like it is much bigger than just the gameplay. Like, that's the experience, like, the player has, but
Mhm.
there's all the work that Turk's doing behind the scenes is actually really impressive.
Actually, that's the other challenge with a sequel, which is Turk would not let a sequel go out the door without really extensive, thoughtful research and analysis on the educational aspects of
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes it more expensive to create a sequel, but it means that you're staying true to what you're really creating.
Yeah. I was thinking memorable because
Oh,
whether it has one thing you remember or the whole game, like Make Me a Pizza, people think of that all the time. And I'm sure they're like, I wonder what that's from. And then they see, you know, one of our ads or one of our ambassadors, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's right. Kind of like the fever dream that they were talking about
right.
before. So,
I love that.
all right. Any final thoughts for players, educationers, developers that are maybe listening in?
Gary, you go first because I'm looking something up.
Okay. I would say don't be afraid to fail. Players play and fail and try again. Teachers let let your kids fail, constructively and let them go and let them figure things out. And I think like developers that are creating educational games or games in general, like honor your players, let them don't just feed them the answers, let them have challenges and create a wonderful, beautiful environment for players.
David?
Gary gave the best answer. I just wanted to give I really think in some ways lightning struck with Zumbinis. The educational aspects are great. It's fun. I want to give a shout out to the voice actors, particularly Randy Nazarian, who did Captain
Oh.
Cajun and Arno voices. I mean, we could not remake the game without having exactly that same audio in it. The fans would not stand for it. How can you not have Make Me a Pizza back in its original? The narrator, the people at Broder about the first interview in the series is with two of them, Michelle Bushneff and Dennis Leary, I believe.
Mm.
Um, the whole nine yards, the art, the concepts, the production, the world created. It again, it was just like lightning struck on this game, and it was magic. Shout out to the fans too, just because
Yeah. Keep it
Absolutely.
they kept it alive, and we went back to them with what we were thinking, and got yes, that's fine, or bloody hell no, don't do that. So yeah,
And we listened.
and we listened.
That's the
And we
important
listened.
part.
We really
Yeah.
do. Like, it's
Yes.
important what our fans say. As a fan, I like
A
we
thank you.
integrated their voice into the game as well.
We worked for years with several of the companies to get Zumbinis back within TERC so we could remake it. A shout out to whoever at Houghton Mifflin made the decision to finally hand it back to us, and who shipped Glenn Secor, my associate at the time, a hard drive. We got this envelope in the mail from Houghton Mifflin, and it had a sheet of paper in it that says something like Zumbini's assets, and we got a hard drive.
Oh, wow.
And we plugged it in, and it's like, it's all the audio, and it's, it's the graphics, and I mean, we couldn't reuse the graphics, for instance, but,
Yeah.
the audio, I mean, having the audio was awesome. That made our day. It's like, oh my God, we don't have to sit in front of the game and record everything and play it 1,000 times. Not that that wouldn't have been fun, but
Right.
just having the audio was awesome. The soundtrack, I mean, everything.
Yeah. All right, David, where can people follow your work or explore more through Turk?
TERC was one of the first institutions on the net. So we along with the Exploratorium, are the only two non-degree granting institutions to have a .edu. So we are terc.edu. And of course, also Zoombinis.com if you want Zoombinis. But for TERC in general, it's terc.edu.
We are FableVisionStudios.com. Also for educators, FableVisionGames.com. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, do you have any final words for the fans or the viewers that you would like to share?
Thank you.
Can you make me a pizza?
Now I need pizza.
I checked because I'm like, God, are we going to get in trouble? There is actually an Arno's Pizza.
Oh, there is?
I forget where it is. It's like in New Jersey or something. I meant to call them up and say, hey, do you want us to do you want some t-shirts? I don't know if they're still in business. This was years ago.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got
wow.
find them. That's amazing.
But yeah.
But
Awesome. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
guys
much.
so much. This was so
Thank
much
you.
fun. I
So
appreciate
much
you
fun.
taking the time out for this, and we'll talk soon.
all right.
Have a
Do
good
well.
day. Bye.